Real talk, real people. Rooster AM with Ryan Nelson.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't we have a treat for you today here at Rooster AM? We have a powerhouse entrepreneur. His name is Kyle Williams out of Enid, Oklahoma. He started off at Fairview, Oklahoma on a small business venture. He learned some lessons, and in those lessons in time, he created Jiffy Trip, one of the number one brands in convenience stores today. But not only does he own and operate and run Jiffy Trip, he's also a broadcaster. He's a philanthropist, but one of his key legacies is that he cut a fresh cut tree, the largest fresh cut Christmas tree, and brought it to Enid, Oklahoma. And from that one small act, it inspired a movie. It's inspired many people. He calls it the Christ tree, not the holiday tree, not a Christmas tree, but the Christ tree. And today I want to talk about and explore some of those key moments that's shaped his path, challenges he's overcome, the resilience he's had to have to continue a vision and move forward with that vision. So get ready for a deep dive into leadership, resilience, and the mindset it can take to have a bold idea and turn it into a reality. We have the person that can do that. We have the person who's shown he's done it multiple times. His name is Kyle. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for having me.
Chloe, the most trusted salesperson at Stevens Ford, whether it's a brand new truck or a reliable pre-owned car, she will steer you in the right direction. Guaranteed. Don't wait. Stop by Stevens Ford today. Ask for Chloe, where trust meets value.
Thank you. Well, before we get started, I'm just going to share a little bit about Kyle and personally how I know him. A few years ago, I had a house fire. And typically, when you talk to people or you hear their name in the news, it's always bad. Like for me, I get a lot of bad press, right? You say the wrong thing, you do the wrong thing, but no one ever talks about when you do something good. So today I want to share real quickly before we get started that my house caught fire a few years ago. We had so much smoke damage, and for about a week, we didn't have a whole lot to work with. And Kyle gave us a bed. My son still sleeps on it today. He loaned me a suit to use so I could continue to go to work. I even think you helped us out a little bit financially at the time just so we could eat while we were waiting on insurance money. And Kyle, I'm indebted to you. I want to say thank you because I don't know if I ever actually said thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
Early life. We're here today with the guy who's an entrepreneur. He can make things happen. It's like I said earlier, he can take a bold idea, he can turn it into a reality. And the truth is, the first steps to success is action. It's not really doing a lot of talking. I've known a lot of people who do a lot of talking. They talk to you 5 years later and they still have this great idea and they never did it, but you did it. And it started back in Fairview, Oklahoma. Do you want to talk a little bit about your journey?
Sure. First of all, thanks for the kind words. You give me too much credit. Um, Started out, grew up in Fairview, 40 miles west of Enid. Played a lot of sports. I was kind of a jock, not a great student, very average. Senior class president. I think I probably had the worst GPA for a senior class president in Fairview history. Um, but anyway, got out, went to a few semesters of college, and didn't do well. Wasn't ready for school. Wasn't prepared. Um, but I kind of wanted to go in business for myself. My father had started in 1962, the year I was born, so I was wanting to get into business, and so had this wonderful idea at the time of starting a very nice men's clothing store in Fairview. So did that, not prepared, and the results were exactly what we deserved, which was to lose a lot of money in a short amount of time. So um, this store lasted about a year and a half. Um, Very painful closing for me. I had really not ever failed in anything in my life. And today I don't call that a failure, but it was a great lesson learned. The pain was a lot to really, when you start something and you don't, it doesn't work out the way you thought. So you think you know everything,
Yeah.
The younger you are, the more you know. You think you know.
The older you are, the wiser you become.
You do. And that's usually from losing money and making bad decisions. So I got married just after we closed the store and worked for a milk company here in Enid for about a year and a half. And then I began in the convenience store business. And
Can we go back for just a second? What was the mistake at the clothing store? Was it just bad market, bad idea?
it'd be much shorter to tell you what I did right.
Okay, what'd you do right?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay, there you go.
Nothing. You know, I didn't understand market. I didn't understand buying. I didn't understand seasonality of the business. I didn't understand what the value of a dollar is. I didn't understand anything. Right. But my wife and I look back at that with a badge of honor because we paid the business off. It took us 5 years. Um, and it was painful, but we did it and we worked through it and we've never made a payment late and we kept our word and we went through that. It was very difficult. But what it did, it drove a lot of pain inside that I'm not going to go down that road again. Now, that doesn't mean everything I've done has been successful because it's not been. I can give you other examples and where things just didn't turn out. But it was a great learning lesson, and I wouldn't change it for anything. Um, it's when you're successful early, sometimes it leads to pride and um, you know self-importance and all the things that aren't good. So actually, having my first business not make it was a blessing, God's blessing for us. So I say it wasn't a failure because I learned from it. Now, if you don't learn from your mistakes, it is a failure.
Right. Yeah. That's I similar background is when I was doing my business. The difference between us is you failed early, which was a good thing. I didn't. I was so successful, and then that turned into a disaster later. Because when you get success so easily, so we think, oh, this is going to go on forever, and then things happen. The next thing you know, you're like, where'd all my money go? That was the mistake. Wasn't the money? The mistake was how I handled my money. It was just making money was easy for me. Keeping it was the hard part.
It is the hardest part, I think, and I agree with you. Making money is not hard.
Yeah.
But it is how you invest and keep, and I have some things that I do, and I talk to my son about this a lot and daughter, um, of because you always have to be prepared because um, things change. Businesses throw you curveballs. There's cycles in business. There's interest rate changes. There's so many things that happen. You can get your cheese moved very quickly, and I can give you examples of those that just literally took huge businesses and just switch them out, and all of a sudden you're just not relevant anymore.
Blockbuster.
Absolutely.
Blockbuster
VHS.
video.
My wife and I were talking. We used to back in the time we actually had to rent the player. And you could rent the player and the movies. That's where we started.
Wow. Yeah, because I remember Blockbuster used to be so cool. Like I would go. You'd be looking at the covers, and that's how you would decide. You'd be like, that looks like a good movie. Knowing we didn't have internet where you could just
No trailers, no anything.
nothing.
It just that's what you got.
You got the picture, and you were like, hopefully this is good. And then you had the people at Blockbuster who watched them all and would tell you, this one's really good. This was okay. It used to be a nice experience, but that went away quickly when streaming started happening, and things are moving now in wild directions. I know you guys like Jiffy Trip, for instance. You kind of stay with the time. The bean to cup coffee. That's a wonderful innovation. You got the eatery that's really good. Everything that you guys do is, I think, the best that you can do in that industry.
We try. I wouldn't go that far, but I would say that we do invest back a lot of money back into our businesses, and we try to just continually improve. Um, so
Well, I don't know. Here's why. Because my son, he'd prefer a Jiffy Trip card over a Starbucks card.
well, there's a lot more sugar in our stores.
I know, but I do. It's like, but I got him a Starbucks card one time, and he was like, "Dad, next time you just give me Jiffy Trip," and I was like, sure, he likes going in there. He does like your little slush. But you guys do, you continue to grow. It's clean, it's good. I mean, for me, it's the place I would want to go. It's kind of that convenience stores have like this weird market in towns, certainly in the smaller towns, where it is that place that you gather, you meet people, and you guys just have it set up good. I love it. You guys weren't really an overnight success.
Oh no, no, no,
It
no.
took years of effort, and that's true entrepreneurship. Most overnight success isn't overnight. It is something that takes time. You want to talk a little bit about how long it took you to make this thing sizzle?
Yeah, I kind of stood on my father's shoulders, if you will. He started in convenience store business in '72, and I officially started January 1st, '83. Even before I closed the clothing store, I'd already started a convenience store with a partner. So we started in January 1st, 1983. Um, just kind of doing what my dad was doing. And you learn it's a difficult business. It very is. You have over 2,000 products inside, 130 something subcategories you got to manage. Employees, food service, which is huge today. Food service, beverage, drinks, um, coffee, all top of the mind. Very, very important for us to grow our business. Um, and so over time, we didn't really had a I didn't never really had a growth plan, Ryan. It's just if something became available, then you'd buy it, or I'd ask vendors, and they'd say, "Oh, that store's for sale." Okay, is it a good store? I'd always ask the vendors. So you just kind of start out that way. It wasn't until probably less than 10 years ago we said, you know, we need to grow. And growing's fun. It's hard work. It is very difficult work. So we began by building a new store. We took an old store and just did a complete, you know, very expensive remodel, upgraded to looks like a brand new store, and then really started building. Um, that's where we're at today. We're growing. We've got two new stores getting ready to break ground in Arkansas this spring and early summer. We've already got 40 stores out there. I'd like to go to 20 if possible, but everything has to be done um, as you can afford it and as you can pay. So you can't just, I'd like to have, 40 stores in Arkansas.
You can't go get $100 million loan, build all these things, and just cross your
You probably
fingers.
could.
Yeah.
The trouble is, you really shouldn't.
Yeah.
That's not.
Yeah.
I would not recommend that. So, I've talked to private equities before, that some of our partners in our medical business, and I always said, because they can just build as fast as they can because they have huge amounts of money. I said, the difference between you guys and us, as far as we have to pay as we go.
Right.
We can't just go borrow, $100 million and just know at the end of the day it's going to be okay. We can't do business that way. That's how private equity works. So we've been growing, and we've been offloading some of our smaller stores, markets that really aren't growing, or markets that the capital expenditures aren't a good ROI, return on investment. So it doesn't make sense. So we want to put our money into growing businesses, new locations, bigger markets, continue to serve the public, and that's how we're growing right now.
Right. That's awesome. Um, you do so many other things, though. I mean, you have the radio station, the KOFM. That's you. Um,
31 years now.
you
Just seems like it was yesterday, but 1994. Actually, also January 1st, 1994.
wow. I was 14 years old.
It doesn't seem possible. I mean, that's how my wife and I date things anymore. Like how long we've been in that business, or we were in the uh, oil drilling business for really about 14 years. We're just now selling the rest of that company off as we speak, but that's just how life goes.
Is it kind of come back?
Pardon?
Is the oil company coming back with the drill baby drill stuff? No.
Now the problem with that is, and I've read some articles lately, says I get that, but when oil is not really high today, it's $71 today. It's not really a reason for oil companies to go spend an extra $50 billion in new drilling programs that's going to cause too much oil, which is going to drive down the price. So, drill baby drill sounds good. I don't think it really. I think
It's good for the consumer, but bad for the oil
it
man.
is good for consumer, but it doesn't make you can't force it. And if they force it, then they're just going to destroy. They're going to destroy it. People they got booms and busts, and then people are going to lose their job in the oil field. And so it's better to have something that's better to maintain. I think what President Trump was really trying to do is to say that we need to make better decisions on energy, and it should be an all-inclusive. It's not a net zero. It's not all solar or wind or nuclear or oil, but it's all of the above.
Yeah,
We need all the energy.
we were trying to exclude one to force people into the others.
And that never works. Yeah,
well, you got to let the free market work. I mean, the free market always works.
Yeah.
I mean,
I have a friend, and he's I don't know if he's a billionaire, but he's really close. uh, um, and he told me years ago. He said, I know there's a lot of stuff in the wind. He said, wind makes money when there's a subsidy. So, I didn't look into that. I haven't done the math on that, but he's a smart guy. I listen to him a lot.
right.
So,
Wow. So, like, go back to the radio. You've been doing that for 30 years. And what got you interested?
it's for sale.
That's what I was
Is it? I want to read you a text this morning because we this last year, Ryan, we went to high definition,
Right.
and HD radio, and we put new antenna up, we put new tower up, and we put radial domes on these so that they're heaters now. So the last 31 years, on a day like today, our station would ice up, and we would have to turn down our broadcast power, or we would blow out our equipment. So today, Alan Klepper, who's been with us literally for most of that time, text or sent me an email that we're full power. He appreciates us investing back into the business, and we sound great. I was listening to us coming over, and it's just really nice. But those are bigger investments over a long time that you have to do. But radio's been a fun business for us. We've had a digital billboards, which is really a huge part of that business today.
So, you're more of a media company than just a radio station. You do a lot more than that.
Yeah, we're Williams Media, and so we also have digital services, just for sale as well. We can help people with their search engine optimization and other avenues as well. So
Really? That's what I used to do, right?
I think I did, yeah.
So, I wrote the book.
No.
Yeah, I wrote SEO Battlefield that they were using in the colleges.
Wow. Well, that's important.
Yeah.
Because if you're not relevant, we spend a tremendous amount of money and time in the medical businesses, because when you are Googling urgent care, if you're not one or two, you're not relevant.
Yeah, I always tell people if you're not in the top 10, you're not even there.
You're not. So you spend a lot of money doing that, and not everyone probably appreciates the value of what that is, but it's really, really vital.
Some do. Like when because you probably would never hire me because this was 15 years ago too. I was 10,000 a month, like per client, but I had like Sony, and I've worked for Usher, the singer, for a while. But it was, and when SEO for business, it's different. For me, I was kind of what they would call like the hitman, like the online hitman, because what would happen is like people would get like bad reviews on them, and those are hard to get off.
They are.
And so
you got to replace them with good reviews.
Yeah. So I would come in and I would work for a couple months, and then I'd get them replaced. And then, you got to, how do you keep them around forever as well? The minute that you stop paying me, it's probably going to come back. And I have multiple clients today that still cut me shit because they don't want that stuff coming back.
You're an insurance policy.
I am. And then I was also the one that they would call to say, we found out who did it. Will you go take care of them? But I stopped doing that when I became a pastor.
Yeah.
It's like when I became a pastor, I was like, yeah, it seems kind of like not, don't go take down a business just because you can. We did that. It was a Google bomb a few years ago. It was, we were playing around, and it was me and about 10 other SEO people. We got together and said, I wonder if we could disrupt the United States just for fun. And so what we did was when you Googled George Bush's name, we had the number one listing, and it was a video. You know, the one of him taking his shoe off and throwing it.
Oh yeah. Him ducking the shoe that was thrown at him. Yeah.
She ducked. It was like that was number one for a week, and they couldn't figure out how to get it off. That was before though Google was huge. I mean, Google's huge now. That would be hard to do.
Yeah, because I've invested in pre-IPO startups that in the search space, and let me tell you, Google's ruthless. They're tough. They're tough. They're big. And so they can just keep moving stuff, and it just drowns out the competition.
Yeah, I still got them figured out today. I still got them figured out. I still get it. It's tough though, and it's kind of like who you know. That's a real thing. Like some people pay people a lot of money to come in and you know, and they these guys are legit. Like these SEO, they're really legit people. They really do the work. It's just there's some things like if you want to get a Reddit push down, you better know someone from Reddit.
Yeah.
It's because you're not going to just be able to do it. Like you're not going to be able to take over Reddit. So I kind of have a little contact list that I can contact. Say, listen, here's the deal, guys. I'll give you $1,000. Bump that thing down. That's what it is. It's about throwing money at people. And there's some really shade. There was one. It's called Rip Off Report. Oh, it's the shadiest website. They would write rip-offs just to have you pay them to take it down.
Yeah, like people. Yeah,
it's extortion, is what it is.
And then take over your system, and then they you know,
it's so shady.
Do extortion to get money from you. We've had that happen to us before, but we've had backup system within our company that we do daily, weekly, monthly, annually. We just had to go back about 2 days, restore the backup, but you know, they held us hostage.
It's about time that it's not going to matter anymore. Kind of like with your radio, when you go back to look at your radio from when you first started to where we are today, I mean, it's a different ball game. I mean, imagine that's where people used to hear music. Like you would, and I didn't know this was illegal when I was a kid, but you know, like when you would listen to the radio and you'd hit record on the tape player, I didn't know. Did you know that was illegal? I had no idea. I was just a little kid. I would wait all day. And I'd be like, oh, here's the song. Click record.
Back then, no one really cared about that.
I mean, you couldn't pirate it.
You couldn't put it on the computer on your website or anything because there was no such thing. But yeah, business has changed dramatically. I mean, we were in there when they had tapes and magnets to erase tapes and cart machines that are 6 feet tall and 18 feet long to run all your programming and stuff like that. But today it's computers and the editing like you're doing with the editing here.
How do you guys decide what to play and what not to play?
Well, there's a lot of services that we use, and Alan is in charge of that. Alan Klepper does a wonderful job. But there are services out there, and of course we got a certain deck in our playlist, and it's probably maybe 600 songs that's in your deck, and you're switching those out, and a lot of companies that can provide the service, and they use the good data to be able to figure out what's trending, what's not, what the consumer and listeners want to hear. So there's a lot of sophistication in that. I am not deep into that, Ryan.
Really?
I'm kind of on the financial side, and we hire really smart people.
Because I always thought it would be cool because like you do so much for local community. And I don't want to get us too off topic because I was going to go back to that whole, the bad things on the internet. You don't even have to worry about it anymore because there's so much AI. I'm not kidding. I could take this video and make you say things
I know
that you don't even, not even, and you're like, I didn't say that, but no one will know.
We were at a conference here in November, New Orleans, and had a cybersecurity speaker, and literally you get about 3 seconds of voice and just a picture, and they can do that. And unfortunately, that's terrible because it's going to get to the point where you see something and it's like can't believe that because it doesn't. And you see stuff on X. I'm on X quite a bit, and you see pictures and you realize that's not legit. And people are making stuff up. They make funny memes. I mean, there's some funny stuff out there, but
it's not real. And I think that's what's going to happen is people are going to just say, yeah, that's probably not even real.
Well, one of the things we looked at, there was $200 million wire, bank wire stolen in California. Um, Whereas thieves were watching the email traffic, and at the last minute, when they sent the email instructions, they were able to intercept that, feed them their stuff. And when a bank wire is done, it's done. You don't get it back. Uh, so yeah, I think it was 200 million. And so today, when you wire money, you go to great links to talk to the people to verify that because it's easy. It's easy to get fooled today.
Yeah, I saw this thing with they can take your voice, and then they can write a transcript, call your mother, right? This is what they were doing. They were like calling the older mothers, and it would be like, hey, mom, this is your son. I can't find my social security card. You have my number? Mom would say, oh, yeah, hold on, honey. Thinking she's talking to her son the whole time. Give him everything. So it's like, man, it's scary, but it's also really cool because you can do a lot of stuff with it. It's just kind of like internet. I mean, when the internet came out, it was the same way. You use it for good, use it for bad. Um,
And even the best companies. So, an example, we would oh, 9 months ago invested in a cybersecurity company called CrowdStrike. And if you recall, CrowdStrike sent out a update and basically shut down banks, brokerage houses across the United States and world because they had been hacked. The cybersecurity company had did an update that didn't work. So even when you have the best of the best of the best out there, I think they lost about 30% of their market value literally overnight. And more importantly, they lost their reputation.
yeah, being
You can't get it back.
yeah, certainly when that's your business.
So in cybersecurity, I read a newsletter from Richard Mayberry called the Early Warning Report, and he really has been touting for some time that really cybersecurity companies are a huge growth for our market out there. So because the needs are getting more and more and more, and then they call elderly people and they talk them into stuff. They talk them into giving them their information, the bank accounts, and it's a sad world today because what's done in the dark is never good. It just
Yeah, I was over in Wacomas last week and or about 2 weeks ago, and there was a company there. It's a lot of money, right? And some they got an email because they typed in the domain wrong. So like we used to do this back in the day, like to make money. But when like trying to be mean. It was just I don't even know. I don't really know what you would call it, but like J.R. Tolkien. How do you spell Tolkien? Most people misspell it. So what you do is you buy the domain with the misspelling. Then when they go to that website, you sell them to Amazon with your link on it. Boom, you get paid for it every time. They don't really care because they're still selling the book, and the author still gets the money, but I'm kind of like the in between guy. Well, that's what this person was doing, but they were doing it on a different level. And you typed in, and it would pop up a screen. It would say, your virus has been whatever. Call us now. We'll fix it. This guy picks up the phone and calls them, and because he's scared, he gives him all of their business credit card information, everything. And it's like I was telling him, it's like he doesn't need to be embarrassed because it looked really legit. It's just you just got to have the knowing that you don't do anything like unless it's going to be kind of cool because I think what's going to happen are people are going to turn from technology and start moving back to face contact, making things happen that way, which I think is better anyway because it creates a personal touch that you don't get through technology. So we'll go back to the other thing we were talking. I was talking about how you do things for the state. You do things. I mean, during COVID, you were helpful to many families. I remember you coming in and handing out some Jiffy Trip cards for gas for people during that time. I always had this idea that I never pitched to you, but it was for the radio station was to focus on Oklahoma artists, like go and get the local artists from Oklahoma. Because tomorrow I'm hoping Cam Allen's coming tomorrow. He's becoming really big right now. He's incredible. But there's this other one. Her name was Holly Beth, really good country singer locally, but no one hears her. and she's incredible. So I was like, there could be this like Oklahoma music station where it's all about Oklahoma. I thought it was just an idea, like a station or like a segment or something, because you hear the same stuff all the time when you turn on the radio. Same
We
song.
do a little bit of it, right? Not probably what you're talking about, but if local artists are coming through the area, Alan will have them in the studio a lot of time to do a live song in just in our studios.
Mm.
Just on, but it's not just Oklahoma. But if you've got other artists coming through that just happen to be through, because they're going to do promotions. So Alan does a little bit of that. But over the years, we've had people uh, just incredible artists in before they make it big.
Yeah, because Oklahoma is, most people don't know. This is the country music.
We're right there behind Nashville and stuff, but it's Oklahoma's in Texas. We're right there probably with them. We have a lot of
Texas and Nashville do good at promoting them. We do a good job of breeding them. When you go through and look at the best country singers in Oklahoma,
Carrie Underwood, you look at Garth Brooks, Vince Gill.
all of them.
Oh my gosh, yeah, there's tons.
I think Reba's from.
I, I used to go to the rodeo dance in Fairview back in the '70s, and Reba was playing the Fairview rodeo dance.
Wow.
So
And then she sold out arenas.
yeah,
That's crazy. Yeah. So you do stuff for the city and the state. I know that you brought the tree, the one tree, and I know I thought this was my assumption, but I think you told me I was wrong. I thought during that the time that you brought it, I remember watching on Fox News. There was a whole bunch of like, we're gonna change it from the Christmas tree to the holiday tree, and this and this and this. And I was like, oh man. And then when I heard you were doing the tree and you were calling it the Christ tree, I was like, he's gonna bring the biggest tree into Enid just to beat New York City. But that's really wasn't why you did it, was it?
it really wasn't to be. We don't compare it to Rockefeller. Uh, we may have a taller tree. We always have a taller tree, um, but um, too many. I'm not a person that likes the word Xmas. I think that's kind of how our enemy kind of tries to downplay what really Christmas is about. They don't want to say Christ or Christmas, so it's Xmas, holiday,
Yeah.
and that's fine, but don't force me to do that. Don't force me to say that. But we want to dedicate the Christ tree, and we can do that in Oklahoma. I think you do it around the country right now, probably. But up the last 4 years has been very difficult
Yeah.
to do anything that's faith based.
I feel a great revival coming. Um, it's either going to come when the crash happens, or we're gonna thrive. But I think there's a revival coming, and I believe that with technology we can reach people. Like right now, one video. What this is what I was learning is that when I was pastoring at the church, 200 people would come, you know, but 2,000 people would watch online. And it started getting to where you're like, what are we doing? Like, where's our focus? Are we really going to go out and try to get one more person to come to the building, or should we focus on reaching 1,000 people? And the engagements there, like where they would reach out, they would message. We have people from Florida, Texas, California, all over the place tuning in just to watch a message. I think there's something there that we're missing. As it's kind of like in the faith-based world, when TV came, they came to the Christians first, but they didn't want it. They didn't want, because they thought it was sinful, because acting is lying. And so they didn't want it. And they passed on the TV. Then they passed on the radio. It's like, and then time goes on, and then they try to catch up. We cannot be passing right now. We have to do what we got to do.
There is a revival coming. I believe that. I think. I just think that kind of a great awakening, and can't explain it. Don't know exactly why, but just kind of feel that same thing.
So you got the Christ tree. You brought it here. I know it's just like business, things happen. I remember when the wind picked. We had like the windiest Christmas, and the top of it broke.
5 or 6 days with winds over 50, and some gusts probably 60 to 70. Top of the tree snapped first year. 26 feet of it broke off.
It was fixed.
We fixed it, and got it put back up and added a little star to it. And I didn't put a star on the first year because I was concerned about the wind load on that to put it up in the air. But we put a star on it, and it'll remain with a star henceforth now.
That's awesome. It's like that's what separates winners, and the rest is the perseverance and persistence. It snapped, and you guys were out there. I mean, I remember I drove by. I was like, "That's terrible. Like, there's no way they're going to be able to get that fixed." Right. And then, boom, you were out there getting it fixed.
114 feet tall. The tree was this big around. That's what snapped. But it was just a couple causes along with the wind that caused it just to snap. We figured those out as well. But I didn't figure it out. We had other people that came to me and said, "Hey, we can fix this." So, it's just people in our community. They do persevere. That's what we do. We all do.
So, whenever you're doing all this stuff, all the decision making, man, you have so much going on. You've got the radio, you have the tree in itself has to be a business. I mean, going and getting it, bringing it in. I mean, we had 50 some thousand people. I don't even know that first year.
I think around 40. I think our numbers were down a little bit this year. I'm not sure if it was a night we had on Sunday night. I think we're going to go to Saturday night this year.
Yeah,
because it was kind of school night.
There was something going. I remember because we barely got to make it because I can't remember what. Maybe no, it was Sunday. I was doing the pastoring, and it was like, oh my goodness, I don't know if we can make it over there in time, but we did.
Yeah, we had engagements on Facebook and social media were off the charts, continue to grow by leaps and bounds. But I'd like to say we can have 40,000. I'd like to eventually get it much higher than that. But it's going to be what it's going to be. It's just a beautiful, beautiful thing to come see, and it's gorgeous. The light shows that it plays. It's with the music. You can sit in the warmth of your car and tune to a radio station and listen to it and watch it, and just really fun.
And from that came a movie. Yeah. Now the movie's not really about the one tree, the Christ tree. It's the plot device for the movie's outstanding. I was fortunate enough to be able to sit on the set and kind of watch as it took place, and I figured everything. I figured the story out. Let's just say that. We're not going to spoil it here because Aaron said if I spoil, I die.
Yeah, so I take her seriously too.
Yeah. But what got you into that?
The very first year we brought in the tree, Aaron, Elizabeth Cook in Oklahoma City, actually in Yukon, emailed me with a screenplay that was loosely around The One Christmas tree. Of course, the movie's called The One. And so I read it and was really moved by it. So I invited her and her husband, Marty, up to opening night for the first year. And we had a reception for some dignitaries, and her and Marty came, and we just kept in contact, and she kept revising the script, and we just kept in contact, and had lunch with her a couple of times with our whole family, and liked where she was going. And finally, after about 3 years, it was time to either put this onto the screen, or it was time to move on. And our family said, we want to fund this. And from that comes executive director, executive producer title, which means nothing other than you help fund it. But I think people were a little surprised about the quality of actors, equipment, filming. It wasn't like just
This isn't a Hallmark TV show. This is a legit blockbuster movie.
It has a budget about 2.5 times a typical Hallmark show. So we really do believe the quality, the storyline is spectacular. Faith-based Christmas movie, many tie-ins to our community. So we're just excited for that.
What did you think about when you got Martin Sheen?
Oh, I was delighted because there was really him and one other actor were really in the consideration for the lead, and this is who I would have picked. So
Well, I'm
the other one,
curious.
everyone knows as well. I mean, they'd have been going like, "Oh wow, that's pretty cool."
Yeah, I think I don't know who it was, but I could take a guess. If I take a guess, could you not? Was it Dennis Quaid?
No, although we did talk about him, um, and he would have been wonderful. I mean,
Martin fit it perfect. It's
yeah,
almost like it was written for him.
I think I really do think he was the best choice. Um, there was one other actor that we originally considered. I thought would be very very good. But anyway, we're all thrilled with Martin, and not only his acting ability and prestige of him being in our movie, um, but just the fact he's a good guy. And I know you spent time with him, and very kind and generous, and never would turn down photographs or autographs. And in today's day and age, sometimes, at least the ones we hear about, um, they're they're prima donnas,
Yeah,
and
he
that's with
he
a
hung out with the
capital
pastor
P and
all week.
capital D. Donnas. Uh, but anyway, it was nice. But it really fits with the storyline, and I think the film crew is the same way. I think you had a substantial amount of faith-based uh, professionals doing the filming and editing and all the stuff like that. So we're just grateful, and Lord willing, it'll come out around Thanksgiving this year, 2025, and in the movie theaters. And um, they'll do everything they can to get that in as many theaters as they can. But I think it'll be in the above 1,000 theaters. That's kind of what we've been told. So
Do you know who's going to buy it? Or I guess they would probably have to come out and say that.
yeah,
I was thinking Paramount would probably buy it. Put it on
yeah,
Paramount Plus.
I don't know. They'll be working on that, and then it will go after it's the screens. It'll be probably some opportunity to see it on TV, and then also it'll be sold overseas as well. So there's probably a dozen countries that probably get into. So it's kind of fun. Um, I just want to glorify God in it, and I think it will. I think you just watching this movie, and it's a real life movie. You know this, right? And real life is not easy because we screw up in life. I screw up often, daily. Um, but there's redemption, and it's just a story of real life, but it's faith based, and I think it will help some people. I think there's a purpose way beyond what we know. It's not about making money, but I think God's got some purposes, a lot of purposes to this movie, and I think it will speak to some people.
If one child is adopted from watching this movie, you did it. You did a good job. Because there's
We
no
did, we
price
did.
on that.
Aaron and Adam Robb, they did a great job, but they really have. They've worked hard at it, you know. So for us, it's just one more thing of saying yes. I don't know if you and I last time spoke on this, but I'm kind of preparing a speech for the Northwest Oklahoma Business Summit in Fairview coming at the end of March, and talking about the things you've learned in business. And one of the most important, you tell me if we talked about this before, was saying yes to things.
I learned that from Wayne Allen Root. I don't know if you know him.
I do know
Yeah.
who Wayne Allen is.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine, and he told me you never say no.
When our Carol and I's lives really changed when we were invited to go on our first mission trip to Ecuador, Quito, Ecuador, for a radio planting ministry, HCJB, started back in the 50s. And when it was not easy to say yes, because number one, we didn't know anybody. I knew one person, Heidi Jones, who invited us. Um, but we said yes, and we went. We came back and then said, we need to support this ministry. And so we call and says, here's a gift we want to give, but we don't have any leading. God's not led us on where this needs to go. And Heidi said, "It's. I'll give you a couple options," but she said, "This ministry is not sexy, meaning people want to give to Africa and they want to give to China and stuff like that." They said there's this wonderful radio ministry in south of Poland near Wisła, Krakow, uh, uh, Malinka. Um, and so we said, just give it to them. And about 6 months later, Ryan, we're not thinking about this. 6 months later, we're going like, we need to go over there and just see about this, see what's going on. So we went over, and this is about 2006, seven, something like that. And we found the most incredible people. And since that time, Carol and I have been there 9 times. We've hosted 34 friends from Poland in our home overnight over the years because we just invite them to come. We've taken a number of friends, including Wade and Rochelle Burleson. We took them over. Then Wade got invited back to preach at the Glavichka, I think it's Glavichka, uh, evangelism conference for like 7 nights. And he did a spectacular job, of course. But that's when we said that, all of a sudden, God takes all these things and they just, our lives start to change. We start to think differently. So that's how it kind of began. Or sometimes just when you say yes um, to giving, you know, the incredible thing about we've found, and we uh, spend time with our children on this, is that there is joy in giving, and how it's just it's odd, and you know this, but because when you do step out and you give to someone, you're loving them, which we should, but God always blesses you, no matter what it is, whether He gives the guy in the corner $20 or buy him a meal or uh, take stuff to a thrift that has faith-based ministries. Uh, Whatever you do, there is a real joy in giving. And so we started a private family foundation with our children and my dad at the time before he passed, to meet together to help people on a quarterly basis. And we use we have three tenets to our giving. This is it: evangelism in any shape or form. That's missionary support, Christian radio, city Bibles overseas, whatever that may be. That's one. Women, children, and orphans. It's biblical. That's people in need. Women, children, and orphans. And third, basic needs: shelter, medicine, water, whatever that is. So our requests that are given are all filtered through those lenses. And if it doesn't include those, then we're really not interested in that giving to them. Other people will do those things. But and we've been doing this for probably a good 10 years now, and it really is enjoyable to see your children bring requests and say, "Here's," and then we say, "Well, what do you think we should do? How much?" And we do things together, and because my dad had the joy of giving in his heart, he did. My dad was the most generous person I know, and he gave it to Carol and I, and now our children, and we would never speak what we give to, and or anything like that. But I will tell you, when they say joy in giving, there is joy. And I've had friends who one friend in particular said, "Do you ever get tired of people asking?" I said, "No, no," because we can say no to something if the Lord doesn't lead you to it. You can just say like, "Just doesn't feel the same." But other times, just like, "Yeah, you need to be doing that."
It also helps. And I know this is kind of strange. One of the worst things in the Bible that you see, one of the hardest sins to overcome is greed. And you overcome it by giving.
Oh, right. And
When you learn to give, your greediness goes away.
let me tell you about my first part of my life. That's a great segue. We hadn't discussed that. But I grew up a workaholic, and all I wanted to do was make money. That's all I wanted. And my wife and I went through some very difficult times in the late 1990s. And that's when I came to faith. I was 33 years old. And what you just said is the answer to greed is giving. It overcomes greed. And I was a very selfish I still am selfish, but not to the extent that I was. I was only interested in making money. My brain never, ever, ever stopped. It didn't. It was just going. And there was a certain day in I think 1996 where God, the Lord just like that took it away, and I went from struggling with that to there wasn't. I can just turn it off. When I go home at night, I go home at night. I really don't worry. Occasionally you have something, but the reality is I was able to do that. The Lord did that for me. Now, I have other things I struggle with. My struggles today are different than what they were, but I was, I, I'm a different person today. I'm a better friend, better husband, better father, better grandfather, um, better employer than what I was before. Because I wasn't a nice person. Um, I grew up as a there's a book called Man in the Mirror by Patrick, I think it's Morley. Um, that really helped me to understand how selfish I was. But I thought at the time, I thought when I was in high school I was saved.
Yeah, you walk the aisle, build out the card.
I was a cultural Christian, is what they call that. Cultural Christian. You say you are. I could go walk into court and I'd be acquitted because they would not find evidence of my faith. Um, but when God changed that and saved me at age 33, He took that away and I became a biblical Christian. Flawed, and Ryan, you understand this. Someone in the audience may not. Being a believer doesn't mean everything's perfect.
Being a pastor doesn't mean you're perfect.
We all mess up, and I would say I've done things in my life that would I'd blush forever if people knew. But when I was saved, I went from being a cultural to a biblical Christian. That's what Patrick Morley in his book talked about. Is I said I was, I thought I was, but I wasn't. And once I came to faith, I realized how far off I had been. And so that's when life changed. And then God just opens doors and does these other things. And you're like, but saying yes to them, yes to giving, yes to going, you know, tell yes to saying a good word to someone, whatever those things are. Yes changes your life. No keeps you bottled up. But saying yes to life, yes to traveling. We've been to the um, northern part of Burma, which is now Myanmar, in Asia. They're under a coup to this day to Emmanuel Children's Home to meet her pastor, Pastor Munn, whose daughter now is at Oral Roberts University, Esther. Um, but saying yes to life is important. When you keep saying no, you miss out on what God's doing.
So true. And that the same thing goes with trying to grow your business. You can't always be a no person. It's if you don't step, it's like leaves. They're never going to blow and they're never going to do anything if they don't go outside. That's what I tell my son, like, because this generation wants to stay in all the time. And I'm like, you need to go outside, let the wind blow, let it take you places, experience life. People always ask, well, what does God want me to do? They pray, God, tell me what it is you want me to do, waiting for a verbal answer. And I'll tell you, you don't need here's what God
Yeah.
wants. God wants you to go do what makes you happy, but do it for Him.
Yeah, and yes doesn't mean yes to drugs and things like that.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about is when we had an opportunity to move over here to Enid for my wife's job, and I really never thought I'd leave Fairview. We came over here for that, and then next thing you know, we have so many more friends because the community is so much bigger. We have found a church home that we've been there for since about 96, 96. So almost 30 years.
So when Wade got there,
Yeah, yeah. Waited was there about 3 years or 4 years before we got there, and and we travel a lot with Wade Rochelle, and we just have so many friends and opportunities that came from that. Um, miss my hometown, still love my hometown. Um, but just in life general for opportunities to get out of that comfort zone and say, yes, I will. I mean, it was hard that first time. I remember the first time we went to Niger, West Africa. Uh, how we even thought about going was we're sitting in church, and Pastor Yakuba Seydu and his wife Renata were coming. He's a Nigerian, and they were needing a place to stay. So we said, "Okay, come stay with us." So they stayed with us. We showed him the radio stations. We took him out to the oil drilling company, and we were heading to the lake one Saturday over at Skytook, and Yakuba said, "Kyle, I would love to have a radio station in Niger. Their capital's Niamey, about 3 million people." I said, "That'd be great." Year later, year later, Pastor Yakuba calls and says, "Kyle, I got a radio license and a TV license." And he said the funniest thing after that. He said, "But there's only one condition. I have to have an American partner." I said, "Put my name down." So he did. Started a radio station now, which is huge in Niamey, probably the second most listened to station in a city of 3 million, doing great work. And guess what? Because of that, saying yes to him coming and staying with us, Ryan, we've been there 8 times. I've been there 9 times. My wife's been there 8 times. I had to go when the tower had some problems unexpectedly. But uh, all that happened because we said yes to having them stay in our home. And we got to know Yakuba's heart. You know Yakuba, Renata. And now their children, Levy and Sarah, are both, Sarah's already graduated from ORU. Levy's at ORU now. Um, but whenever Yakuba's here, we usually have him stay with us where he stays across at the Price guest house. But that came about by just saying, yes, we'll volunteer. Not knowing what God's doing. You're sitting back going like, that's pretty cool.
Well, yeah. When you were 30, you said 33, right?
33.
So your perspective changed. You started following the vision, not the money. And the money will find the way, but you follow the vision
And the Lord blessed us financially as well.
through following the vision.
I do. It, I can't explain it any other way. When we look at some of the things we've done and the Lord's blessed us with, Brian, it's hard. It's hard. You can't say, God took care of us. I mean, didn't take care of us. You're going like the only explanation, God's hand of favor was on us for a reason. And we're not great business people. We have fun doing things, but and I can tell you. I'm working on one of those stories now for the speech over in Fairview. Um, I remember starting a business. And this is cool. This is really fun. Starting a business, and the only reason I went to the person to talk to him was to encourage him. My business partner, Dana Lemunion, had sold his business to a public company, oil and gas drilling rigs, to a public company, and had a 5-year non-compete. Was getting toward the end of that 5-year non-compete, and he was wanting to get back in the business and just wasn't able to do it on his own. And he was very depressed. I'd known Dana not real well, but I knew him from Fairview. His wife would catch me and say, "Kyle, go give him some encouragement." I was trying to call him. Unfortunately, I was co-chairing a capital campaign at OBA at the time, and I think he thought I was calling to ask for money for that. And so I kept asking, finally, he said, "Fine, let's go to breakfast." So we went to breakfast. And Ryan, for about 2 hours, I listened to a man pour out his heart of what he was wanting to do. And I sat there and I finally said, "Dana, my father and I would invest with you." And he said, "You would?" 2 weeks later, we had a $2 million loan, started the company, and then God does something even more incredible. We have oil companies calling us wanting our rigs. One of the largest in the country, remember the S&P 500, Range Resources, had worked with Dana before. They wanted our rig. And Dana said, "That's great, but how do I get my second rig?" And you know what they did? They came to us. They gave us a $16 million contract and gave us a $3 million interest-free loan, of which we paid back ahead of time.
Who does that?
God does it.
Yeah.
That's not us.
Yeah.
But so they ended up taking our first two rigs, and we drilled for them for about 5 years, nonstop.
Wow.
You just can't. There's no way that happens other than God just has hand on that. And then we went through some very difficult times when the oil got crushed and our rigs got changed out and stuff. But we just, Daniel tape today, same thing. He said, "Oh, God blessed us so much that just doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. That a guy in Oklahoma City, Paul Blanchard, goes to the board of an S&P 500 company and says, I want to give this contract and I want to give them $3 million interest free."
That's wild. That's just wild.
God has done that so many times in our lives, and things you're just going like, how does that happen? But we're grateful for that, and um, learned a little bit about the oil and gas drilling business.
Before we hop off, got one question. If you could go back in time and talk to your 15-year-old self, what advice would you give him?
You don't know much. Get around smart people. Hang around with smart people. Get the best counselors. That's one of the other 3 points I'll make over Fairview. Is that you don't have to know everything. You don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. Find smart people, get their counsel, pray about it, and you'll do better off. It's when you think you know everything that's right before the fall. Pride comes before the fall. Yeah. So when you think you know it, none of us know it all. None of us know it all. There are people that know the Bible better than us. There are people that have better marriages than us. There's people that have made more mistakes than us that have learned from those mistakes. There's people who've been successful in, and a lot of times success leaves clues, as Tony Robbins says. Success leaves clues. So listen to smart people, but be careful your counsel that you have the right counselors too, because not every person successful will give you the right counsel.
Right. Yeah. Go to car sales. You got a little car salesman giving you advice. They're wanting you to fail so they can steal your car. There's
Well, a lot of times there's conflicts of interest.
yeah.
There's conflicts of interest, but you know you want to find the best attorneys you can for your best business structure. Um, find best accountants, and really good accountants is very vital. Oh my gosh, we got some outstanding ones now. Probably had our business for the last decade. Just knows our business intimately. So there's moving parts and knows how to plug those parts in and how to do good deals.
Yeah, I think the cure to pride is humility. And for this is what I've learned, and I'm telling you, I have learned everything the hard ways. Like when it comes to making money, no, but when it comes to relationships, gosh, I know how to burn them. Like I just do. And what I've learned is to become humble, you have to leave the room. You can't be the smartest man in the room because you just become so prideful. You got to find another room and you put people around you that can humble you.
Old Testament, all the time it says, humble yourself and come back to God.
Yeah.
Humble yourself. And that posture in life is important. Just don't take yourself seriously. I really don't take myself seriously. Around the office, I'm Kyle. All of our friends in our office will call me Mr. Kyle. It's just a joke. I'm trying to say, guys, I'm not Mr. Williams. I'm Kyle. And don't take it too much of yourself. Realize there's people much smarter than you are, and life is just better that way. You still screw up and you still do things you shouldn't, but at the end of the day, humility is very important. And
That's really my goal for this year. My goal, just personal goal for Ryan, is to find more humility because I think it's just it gets me in trouble a lot. Like that was good words though. I needed to hear that. So you were preaching.
I needed to hear that too. So it's just, you can't hear it enough, but yeah, don't take yourself too seriously as far as you think you're something, because you're really not in the scheme of things. God owns everything. He allows us to manage it for a time. So it's really not ours. And in the great book Treasure Principle of Randy Alcorn, you know, um, God God owns it all. He owns cattle on 1,000 hills, which means infinite. So um, we are just, um, and probably the great treasure principle that I'll end with this. My favorite treasure principle from Randy Alcorn's little bitty book is God doesn't bless you to increase your standard of living. God blesses you to increase your standard of giving. That that'll change or rock your life when you realize that is that as you're being blessed financially, that there's an opportunity to partner with God in doing really cool things, or to be selfish and hold it all to yourself. That Kyle Williams needed to hear. So
Thank you so much for being here today. I
thank you,
think
Brian.
that's the best way to close right there.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.